Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Lighthouse Sessions. Today, I'm really excited. I have my new friend, Eliot Vancil, with me. Elliot is the founder of Fuel Logic. Elliot, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yep. So I'm a serial entrepreneur, is what I like to tell everybody from the get-go. I've pretty much worked for myself. I've had one job with Sherwin-Williams Paint Company right out of college, but I've been self-employed from mowing yards as a kid until we're here today. I've built many businesses, typically from the ground up. I really pride myself in being able to build businesses and get them up and off the ground bootstrap without a lot of debt. I've exited businesses. I'm still running businesses, but I'm just a serial entrepreneur at the core and love doing it.
I love it. And we didn't actually talk about this before I hit record, but one of the things I've seen is my guests are either serial entrepreneurs, they go one to one to one, or they're parallel. And the weird thing is, both of them average seven different paths over their career.
Huh,
So,
that's interesting.
and for what it's worth, sometimes that means the businesses they run, sometimes it's the causes they push, but for whatever reason, there's always something greater than the self. And I find that fascinating.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. What do you mean by parallel? I'm interested to understand that
Okay.
more.
I'll give you two examples. One, I have my friend Tom, who on his 77th birthday launched his seventh consecutive business. So he built,
Okay,
exited, built, exited. I have a friend, Steve, who I think right now he has five concurrent businesses, and each one of them is a silo, and he's got a management team. And as he gets a new idea, he just builds a new business and moves on with
I
the
got you.
next.
And
So,
that's what you mean by parallel. So they're
yeah.
running businesses in parallel. Yeah, that's something that I've done. Definitely, I've run some businesses in parallel. I like to really get deep in one business and then move from that business into another. Business is probably what I've enjoyed more, just because I don't feel like I can give enough back, to one of the businesses. But yeah, I've got buddies that do all that same thing.
I have one good friend who he runs two businesses, and both of them are basically to fund his passion. He runs a nonprofit, and it's
Okay.
just it's again it's a different style, but his version of giving back was through this nonprofit, and it's just I love watching entrepreneurs because there's no such thing as an entrepreneur. We're all different, so let's jump in a little and talk about your background. So you've
Yep.
run multiple businesses. What was the impetus for starting and building Fuel Logic?
Yeah, I think that, so going back a little bit, I started in technology, and it's kind of a funny story. I was working for Sherwin-Williams Paint Company, and I was managing a store, and when there was like two or three employees, and I was doing 80 hours a week. I've never been more miserable in my life. And a buddy of mine was living in Colorado at the time, and a buddy of mine was like, "Hey, come back to Dallas." And I came back, and he got me a job at this IT place, and I didn't know anything about IT. And the guy called me in. I'll never forget. He called me and he's like, "Elliot, I like you, man, but you don't know anything about IT, man. So I'm gonna have to take you down from $12 an hour to $7 an hour." And that was my entrance into the IT space. And I did that for a couple of years until I got my sea legs, if you will, and then started a company called Network Logic. Was my first what I call real company. That And I ran Network Logic until it was an IT company that we did outsourced IT solutions for small and medium business. And I ran that company until about 2 or 3 years ago is when we finally sold that business. And so that's one that I ran in parallel. But that business spun out other technology businesses. One was a telecommunications master agency called Nexus Solutions. We sold that business in 2020. And I was just kind of bored. I had a buddy that I'd worked with in Network Logic, who had gotten divorced, and I lost track of him for a while. And when I found him, he was selling fuel, and I was like, "What are you doing? What do you mean we're selling fuel? We do technology." And he was like, "No, it's great, man. I love selling fuel. It's blue collar. It's a different kind of a sell." And it just sounded intriguing to me. And I always liked this guy. I wanted to work with him again. And so he and I started Fuel Logic. Basically, it's the same. Back then, it was the same premise as Nexus, which was the previous company that I built and sold. And we did a ton of just reselling other people's products and connecting people, managing the logistics between multi vendor solutions and things of this nature. And so we started Fuel Logic in 2015, is when we started that. And then I'll be honest with you, sometimes you just hit one. I always tell my son, you have to be lucky to be in business, but you have to be working hard to get lucky. And in this one, we just got lucky. It was just right time, right place. Fuel is a very old industry. Most of these companies are, I was talking to a guy the other day, 80-year-old company, and his granddad left it to him and he's leaving it to his son. And most of them are not very technologically advanced because of that. And so we came from technology. And so we were able to come in and really just shake up that industry, just coming in and doing things that just seemed normal in the IT world. We just brought that to the fuel world. And all of a sudden, we're revolutionary. And when you search us, we're 80% of the first page right on Google. And so it's been a really fun ride, but it's the biggest business that I've ever built, and I'm having more fun doing it. But it's weird, man. It's just if you'd have told me that this would have been some big success, I don't know that I would have believed you back in 2015.
Well, it's funny. I grew up on a farm, and in a long past life, there was always the local fuel guy, and
Hmm.
it was always frustrating because this was back in the day with party lines, and you know answering machines weren't really around yet, and you had to keep calling and calling and calling until you got through, and some days he couldn't add you to the route, and it's on a farm. If you don't have fuel, you don't have anything to do. So now, before we hit record, you were mentioning two things we're going to talk about because I think both of them will
Yep.
be fun. One, you said that you have a lot of ideas, and your staff say that 1 out of 10 is good. The
Yeah.
other piece that I think we're going to really talk about is the business is business. And
Yeah.
I think that's something I hear a lot of people overcomplicating. And I love that you took what you've learned from each business and added it to the next one. So let's talk about the 1 out of 10 ideas because I'm going to be honest. I think most people go all their lives, and if they're lucky, they get one good idea. But people like us, we have one good idea by breakfast time, and then we
Yeah.
spend the rest of the day chasing it. How do you and your team decide which are good ideas and which ones don't get
Yeah.
chased today?
Yeah. And so we were talking about disc profiling a little bit earlier, right? And I'm a D personality. I'm a DI actually, and so that means that I have intrapersonal skills and predominantly dominant skills. And when you're unbroken in that personality, you don't really understand what your negative traits are. So the positive traits of somebody that's a D: they move fast, they check boxes, they don't care what's in their way, they're going through it, they're not afraid of risk, they're not. Well, you can just take every one of those and flip them over, and those are also the negative traits of a D, right?
Yeah.
They move too fast, you know what I mean? They're big riverboat gamblers. They don't care if they hurt people's feelings, and I think that about the middle of my, well, we really wasn't the middle, back in about 2005, I really started. I'd hit a point when I was running Network Logic that I built this. We had 70 employees. We had offices, 5 offices nationwide. And I built this monstrosity that didn't have a foundation, and that nobody was more miserable working there than me. And it was horrible. I had my fingers in everything. In our accounting department, I was our best salesman. I was our escalation point for our engineers. And it was just really a horrible place. And I joined a peer group, and they introduced me to the disc profile, number one, and they helped me to start really understanding that, man, I've got a lot of negative traits, that to have a really well run company, you need to have representation from all the different profiles, if you will. And so I just really started to understand that. And so, yeah, our CFO, she's an S. which is she's about as far opposite of me as you can be. And what I like to tell her is that, the answer is somewhere between us, right? Like you're not right, I'm not right. The answer is somewhere between us. But over time, I think life just has a way of doing this to you. Over time, I've just come to know that I need to trust the people. If someone has concerns about what I'm talking about, like right, my CEO, um, he's a C, which it means conscientious. He wants to dot I's and cross T's. And so the two of them together, when I bring them an idea, the first question is, show us the math and how are you going to pay for this? You know
Yeah,
what I mean? That's number one. And I think I'm mature enough at this point in my career to know that I need to shut up and I need to listen. And if I can convince them, if I can show them the math, they make me think about it more than I normally would think about it. And if I
yeah.
can show them the math, if I can prove it out, they really help me from making a lot of mistakes down the road. And I'm happy to say we hit more than we miss. And so our batting average is high. And but I think it really is because I stop and I listen to the other people around the organization.
I love that, and I started with disc, and now I'm obsessed with Colby.
Yeah, so we're
There's
doing that too. Yeah,
Yeah, and for what it's worth, my Colby, I'm a 4592, which means I plow through things. Again, it's the bull in the china shop when I'm having a bad day, and it's I'm going to break down barriers on a good day.
yeah,
But one of the things I find is a lot of entrepreneurs spend too much time around each other, and we don't recognize the value that to see the other pieces. I look at them as blind spots that I'm going to have, and I welcome
yeah,
somebody saying, "Excuse me, the bridge is out. We maybe want to slow down here."
yeah, yeah. These are not most business owners that I've met, accidental business owners. I've met business owners that are not dominant personalities. But most business owners that go out and do it over and over and over again, they're dominant personalities. And that's not one of our, like our egos are pretty big.
Yeah.
And that's not one of our good traits is listening to other people. And it's part of what makes us good. But I think that if you don't want to miss, right, you need to stop and you need to listen and see the value in what they're saying.
Well, and one of the things I've recognized is I'm a big fan of Sun Tzu, and he's got a quote about knowing yourself and knowing your enemy. And that really resonated with me because when I was just full blown head forward, pushing hard, definitely dominant, I was a DI think. I adapted to C, but it was painful for me.
Yeah,
So I had literally, I was the exact opposite in my job because I worked with people I was trying to fit into. But I think one of the
I call
things,
it wearing an itchy sweater, and I can wear that itchy sweater for about 90 days, and then I can't do it anymore.
yeah,
And
my,
so
my
that's what you're describing. Yeah,
my record was 2 years. It was always 2 years, and then I'd have a tantrum and flip the desk. Not
yeah,
literally, but
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like I've choked this down long enough. I'm about to tell you what's wrong with your business and how you should fix it. Yeah, I've softened with age, but one of the things I'm hearing from you, and I think I am obsessed with peer groups. I think we should all have them because a peer group will tell you, you said it best, they'll tell you what you need to hear because your team's going to tell you what they think you want to hear. But a peer group, a friend of mine says, a good friend will stab you in the front. They'll tell
yeah.
you when you're being an idiot.
Yeah, yeah, and man, we talked about this for a few minutes, but I joined a peer group. I think it was 2005 to 8, something like that, and I was a member of that group for 15 years. And I just can't. There's no way that I would be where I'm at today had I not made that decision to join that peer group because they don't care. They don't care if they hurt your feelings or not. They literally will come at you. Just for me, I came in. I had a big customer, um, and this one customer made me look really really good on paper. And
Mhm.
they dissected that. It didn't even take them a day. They dissected that. They're like, okay, get rid of that one customer, and you suck, And it was just kind of like I was like, hey, don't say that. I'll tell you one of the most impactful things that they told me, and it was in the first meeting. And they said, Elliot, you've gone really far. It's really impressive what you've done, but you're not going any further because you do not develop people. Your hands are in everything. You're a micromanager and you don't develop people. And that hurt my feelings. And I went away and I tried to deny it for a while and I really did some self-reflecting and I didn't. I was a horrible. That's the reason I had 70 employees. And it was a miserable place to work is
Yeah.
because I didn't do anything to develop people. And so I'm happy to say that because of that peer group, I've spent most of the latter part of my career. That's all I focus on today is developing people around me. And somebody asked me one time, like, what are you in it for? Like, it started out as money. I'm not going to lie. When I was young, I thought it'd be really cool to have a bunch of money. And I always tell a story that I thought it'd be really cool to get a motorcycle. And I would just sit around when I didn't have any money, and I would, man, it'd be so cool to get this motorcycle. And I'll never forget when I got that motorcycle. It was about 105 outside. I was sitting on it. I always imagine my hair blowing in the wind, and I don't have any hair. And there's no radio. And I was like, man, it was way more fun to want this than it was to actually get it. And so it ceased to be about the money for me a long time ago. And I think what it is for me is somebody pointed out just how many successful people there are that some of them aren't even with me. A lot of them aren't with me, previous business partners and things of that nature. But because of their involvement with me and some little role that I played in their life, they're in great places now. I mean, heads of big companies started their own businesses, doing their own things. My favorite is a 21-year-old that works. She started for me when she was 21. She's 32 now, and she runs our entire operations organization with a high school
Wow.
degree. And she's just an amazing testament to what being in a good culture you can accomplish. So,
Well, and I just want to circle back and say, first of all, I want to applaud you for developing your people. But just imagine a high school educated woman running a major company with zero student loan debt. I mean, that's
yeah,
literally the
yeah,
American dream right now, right?
yeah, 100%. Yep. And
And
yeah, she does it better than anybody, collegiately trained, you know what I mean, that I have.
yeah. No, I love that. Now I'm going to point something out because I know you know this, but for the audience, when you started developing your people, everything you've touched since then has grown bigger and faster. Is that fair?
That's right. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, used to, I would work 7 days a week, 16 hours a day. And we were about, I don't even know, I can't even get a decimal small enough of the size that we are today.
Yeah.
And so it definitely does not equal, you know what I mean, like brute force, you know what I mean, work. I still work hard today, but it's not even comparable.
Well, it's a funny thing, and I will talk about the mentorship you're doing now because I think a lot of us we go through that pig-headed, stubborn. Nobody can do it as well as I can, and I'm going to be honest. When I first read Traction from Gino Wickman, I went, "Oh, that's nice. It's great for other people." But Gino, I'm not going to accept your limitations and your processes. And I actually genuinely thought he was an integrator. And then when I realized he was a visionary and he built this for himself, I went, "Oh, that's a very different story."
Yeah, man, EOS, you talk about the peer group introduced me to EOS. I've run EOS in every business that I've had that I've sold. My brother runs EOS in his own family, and so they have
Oh,
family
nice.
meetings, level 10 style. And I just, man, EOS, if it is just revolutionized our this business today, bigger than any business I've ever had. And EOS just pours gasoline on it. It's the most amazing thing we've ever done.
I love that. And there's a proverb, and if you Google it, the internet says it's an African proverb. I don't put those two words together usually, but it's an old saying. Let's call it that. Where if you want to go far, you go alone. If you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go
Yeah,
far, you go with your tribe. And I think what EOS does is put safety rails around us, because I don't know about you, but if I'm left to my own devices, I'll play with extremely flammable things in the real business, and I'll light it on fire and go, "Oops, this should have been contained in the lab."
Yeah. Yeah. No, I do that regularly, and it's I'll come in and try to change something just because I'm bored and I want to change
Yep.
something, and
Yeah.
my team has a really good thumb on me, and so I'm not able to do that.
Well, it's also part of the DNA of the dominant. I think that we're like, okay, I'm bored. Okay, I'm just gonna poke that. Nobody will notice, and all of a sudden, it's like, whoops,
Yeah.
we just
No,
knocked
it's
everything over.
yeah, it's crazy, and that meddling, I think that's I have a business coach today, an EOS coach. He's our facilitator, and I think he calls it letting go of the vine, right? And he tells a story, and I'll probably screw it all up, but he tells a story where the guy's hanging off the side of the cliff, and he's holding on to the vine, and he's like, God, are you up there? Please help me, God. And God says, let go of the vine. Is anybody else up there? Please help me. And the whole thing is you're only 6 inches off of the ground. Let go of the
Yeah,
vine.
yeah,
And just that delegate to elevate, it was a big thing that I always struggled with. And EOS is just it's really helped us. We go for a long time. I tried to self facilitate. Don't do that. That is the worst decision that you can ever make. Like, I just did it because I was cheap. And I would try to, one of my peer group guys came in, and he facilitated the first few meetings, and he was good, but he wasn't around. And so before too long, um, I was running EOS, and it's funny. I had a young guy that I mentored, and I introduced him to EOS. And I was telling him at lunch one day that all these problems we were having. He goes, I don't think you're running EOS. I thought, dude, I introduced you to EOS. What are you talking about? And he goes, no, you're not running EOS. And he goes, call my business coach. And I called him, and my business coach met me, and he said, I was really intimidated by you at first because you'd been doing it for so long, longer than him.
yeah,
And he goes, but I soon found out you were running EOS, but you were running Eliot's operating system.
yeah,
I had tweaked it into my own thing, and so we recommitted a few years ago. I mean, it's been about 3 years ago now, with this guy, and it's just amazing. If you'll just stick to the basics of EOS, and if it seems stupid, it doesn't matter. Do it exactly like they tell you to do it. Like, one of the things that we were doing, which just seems so stupid, I had a level 10 meeting. It's supposed to be a 90-minute meeting, right? And I had created this environment where we'll just talk about things until we run out of things to talk about, and everybody can leave.
yeah.
And all of a sudden, we started not really getting to the real issues of the business. And the reason we were getting to that is because people weren't putting their issues on the board, because they were trained, if I don't put issues up there, we can leave faster.
Right.
And so when you say, hey, I'm going to be in here for 90 minutes, and we're going to talk, we'll just sit here and stare at each other, right? If we don't have anything to talk about. Man, I just got out of, right before this call, I just got out of our level 10 meeting. We were tracking 56 issues, and we only got to 15 of them, but 15 of them are solved forever. We'll
Yeah.
never run into that again because of EOS. And so I can't praise it enough.
Well, one thing I'll point out, I see this a lot, by the way, because one of the curses that Gino released on the world was you can read traction and self implement. But
Yeah,
what there should be a big disclaimer on the cover saying you're going to miss all of your blind spots,
yeah,
and you're going to follow the letter of the law, not necessarily the intent.
yeah.
And that's the thing, like the little leaks,
Hmm.
the hey, everybody can go for coffee if we don't have issues. It creates a culture of quiet.
Yeah,
And I would rather have us, well, we're at 95 minutes, okay, let's agree to meet next time,
yeah,
then okay, 15 minutes in, we're all good and everybody's happy. One of the problems, I laugh a lot about the old story of the emperor's new clothes, and it's like we really need people to say, dude, put your pants on. It's
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
and I like
100%.
a good coach. I don't care what the field is, but bring in a good coach, because they'll see the things that you don't see. And, if we saw them, we'd fix them. But if we don't see
Yeah.
them, we just keep walking by.
Yeah. I get out of these meetings, we do them, just traditional EOS style once a quarter, 2 days, once a year. And a lot of times I feel like I'm just being attacked the entire meeting. And it's amazing because he's not going to let me and my D personality take over the room.
Yeah.
And it is just it's an amazing thing. And we've been doing it long enough where I spend a lot of time, licking my wounds, and I know he's doing it for the greater good,
Yeah.
and I I can't tell you how much our team has flourished as a result of just being in there. I think another thing that was really, really key in making it successful is when we recommitted, he made us start at the very beginning, very
Yeah.
beginning. Like we had to start with the vision. We had to start with, he says send everybody to Tahiti, and we build an organizational chart, and then we don't introduce people back that are in the business who would be best for this job,
Yeah.
and we went through that. And I tell you what, my business partner, he got fired the first day. He was the VP of sales, and the first thing the business coach said, he goes, "Great, you took Michael Jordan off the court. He's not scoring 50, 60 points a game anymore, and
Yeah.
you made him the coach." And he was
Yeah.
like, and everybody, we just sat back and we were like, "Oh, we did. Holy cow." And he got fired from the leadership team. He went back to doing what he loved to do, which was sell. And he's still our biggest salesman. And he's still an owner of the company. Nothing changed. And so
Well,
it was amazing though to see that happen.
and I'm thinking out loud, and I'm going to use this term, and no offense intended, but one of the things the EOS people are doing is they're putting a chain on the big dogs so that the other dogs can
Can
have their
grow.
say. And
Yeah,
sometimes that's growth requires we let go of our ego and say, I've seen people who get the big title and they're literally debating how they can retire quickly, and they just want to go back to what they were doing. Some
that's
people
right.
are happy on the floor.
Yeah, like my business partner's a great example of that. And even me, I'm a great example of that. But my business partner, man, he's an I personality. He's a hard I, which means he's a relational guy. He doesn't like conflict. He's the feel good guy. He wants to come in and talk about, last night's episode of Yellowstone. You know what I mean? And you take that guy and try to put him into a leadership role where his primary responsibility is getting awkward and holding people accountable. And he was hating life. I mean, it was horrible. And
Yeah.
and I even think about me, like I sit in the visionary seat still today, and I even think about me. I don't want to be down in operations. I don't want to
God,
be in
no.
finance. I don't want to be the integrator. You know what I
Yep.
mean? I want to sit here and imagine and build cool things. And what's the next big thing this business is going to tackle when this stops working? That's what I want to be able to do. But you know, so early on in my career, I just couldn't see that I couldn't have any of that because I didn't develop the people around me. And it
Yeah.
was just, it's the snake eating itself, right? And
Yeah.
it's just, you can't have what you need because of the way you are.
Well, and it's almost a leap of faith, let go of the vine, because you can't let others reach their true potential until you let go and trust that they'll reach their potential.
That's
And
right.
I see a lot of people hanging on, go, nope.
Yeah.
It's
Well, and it's even accepting that they'll probably never do it as well as I think that I can do it. It
Yeah.
might be 80%. But is that 20% worth what I can accomplish if I let go of that vine and I really start focusing on the things that I should be focused on?
Yeah. Well, and to your point, for the record, I can talk Pareto all day. It's my favorite topic, one of my favorites. But the reality is, if you're holding on to 100%, you carry 100%. But if you put down 80%, then you can look at, okay, what's the gap here in the
Yeah,
20%? And I think that's where you start to move faster because you're not carrying all the weight yourself.
that's right. And and I think that the other thing that EOS brought to us, kind of going back to my business partner, the GWC, the get it, the want it, the capacity to do it. Michael Jordan, when he was born, he had the ability, the God given ability to be able to slam dunk the basketball. That's the get it. It was in
Okay.
him. My business partner didn't have it in him to do that job. So he was deficient in the G. And then the big one was want it, wake up excited to go do this every day.
Hell
And
no.
oh man, he was big time in that one. You know what I mean? And so EOS is just like, okay, guys, you can't have this position if you're a no in any one of those categories, right?
Yeah.
Like you can't be in this seat on the bus. And so that just was just a relief, you know what I mean, for us to say, okay, like, you know, like I have to step down into sales. I've had to occasionally for 90-day stints if we've had to make a head change or whatever. And that want it, I'm willing to do it,
Yeah.
but I can't live there very long because I don't want to do it. It's miserable for me as well. And so,
It's like
yeah,
going to the
I,
dentist. Nobody says, "Hey, send me to the dentist every day," except for maybe dentists. But
yeah, yeah. Well, I've had my share of dentists lately, but that one hit too close to home.
sorry.
But oh my gosh. But no, that's the difference is today one of our core values is team. And and everybody has that on the wall, right? But
Yep.
nobody lives it, right? Everybody has, and I think that EOS really, that's probably the biggest thing that it's done for us is just really make us key in and focus on our core values and live them and talk about them all the time. And so team to me is, if you're a good team member, team is all about the success of the people around you.
Yeah.
And so we had a lady that she worked here 12, 13 years. She was my right hand. She was our CFO, and she was the type of person that just lived to get somebody, you know what I mean? And just wanted to get somebody every day. And it just felt like she, in order to make herself look good, she was always trying to make someone else look bad. And I let that exist for way. She was a great person. I loved her. I wouldn't be
Yeah.
where I'm at today without her, but she couldn't exist in our culture and us have a great culture. And we couldn't scale with that kind of a mentality because you have to judge your success on the success of those around you. If
Yeah.
your team is successful, you're successful, right? And if somebody on your team is getting all the accolades and that makes you feel jealous, there's something wrong there, right? Like you
Yeah.
should be, yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
I
You know,
I
that
have
person's finally successful.
a friend who works in a very toxic environment, and it is amazing because they can't, for the life of them, figure out what it is. But every time somebody rises, everybody pulls them back down, and I'm
Yeah,
like, you may want to fix that. Like they're
yeah,
bringing in, all kinds of consultants, and I'm like, no,
the,
you need to have your people work on themselves because
yeah.
it's
And a
that
lot of
culture.
times the harsh reality. The guy that told me that I needed to go, you know, meet his business coach, the harsh reality is a lot of time you have to part with the people because even though they can be great people, like that lady and her family, I love them dearly,
Yeah,
dearly, dearly, dearly. But it was one of the hardest things. She didn't have the same core values that I had and that I wanted for the company. And we call it your ticket onto the bus, right? Your core values, you have to share. It's a Jim Collins, right? Like get on the
yeah,
bus. But you have to share our core values. And if you don't, you're not a bad person, but
yeah,
you can't. I would say that you need to do this in your personal life as well.
yeah,
Don't don't associate with people that don't share your same core values, you know, and ours are integrity. That's your one strike. You know what I mean? You get one strike on that one. It's a team, right? The success of the people around you. Growth, man, if you want the same job 5 years from now, don't come to work here. This will not be a good because we read books, we do all kinds of stuff here.
yeah,
And then it's consistency and then finally accountability. If you don't want to be held accountable, do not come here, right? Doesn't make you a bad person. Don't come here. And so the reason those companies that are you know like my old companies, it required getting rid of people that didn't share our core values in order to get that right. But
yeah,
until that company gets that right, your friend will just it'll be the same thing because as a zebra can't change its stripes, unfortunately.
yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? And it sounds like a core value problem.
Well, and I can't remember who. I feel like it might be Jim Collins, but they talk about having the right people on the right bus in the right seats.
Right
And
seat.
if
Yeah,
if you don't have the core values, there's no right seat.
that's right. Yeah, I always tell my people the EOS has the people analyzer, and on the first portion of the people analyzer is the core values, and you're either a plus, plus minus, or a minus. And so our bar, our standard is you can't have a minus in any one of our core values. You can have two plus minuses that you're not great at, but you're working on and will work with you. That portion of the people analyzer is your seat, sorry, is your ticket to get on the bus. Once you're on the bus, your seat on the bus, EOS wants you to have the five main things that you're accountable for. And then we want a GWC, get it, want it capacity. Do you have everything that it takes to be in that seat?
Yeah,
Put that person in the seat. Don't share it with them. I'm a habitual seat sharer, right? So that's their seat. They're responsible for that. They understand what we're going to judge them on, right?
yeah,
And then celebrate their success and coach them through their failures, right? And and a lot of times we have to shake up the seats, right? Like we might have a person who can't, maybe they don't have the G for one of the accountabilities on their seat. Well, we'll move that to another team member and make the person accountable for something that they are good at, you know. And so, but man, yeah, I think that is Jim Collins, good to
yeah.
great. I think one of those
It's a
that
common thing, but I feel like that's where I first heard it. Have you ever read Trillion Dollar Coach about Bill Campbell?
man, it's funny. I have not, and somebody told me yesterday that I needed to read that, and
Okay.
so
I'm blessed. Way back in my life, in my career, I worked at Intuit, and he actually worked with a lot of their executive leadership, including Brad Smith, who was the leader at the time, and all of that just came down from on high. Like it was amazing because it was all about pushing down the development. It was not, traditional corporate culture, who did this, who screwed up, who do we fire. It was, what do we learn from this, how do we improve it. And it was amazing because it was just everywhere in every level of the organization. And I have a feeling your next book will be Trillion Dollar Coach.
yeah, yeah,
Now,
definitely will now.
full disclosure, Trillion Dollar Coach, in my opinion, it shares a lot of stories and anecdotes about Bill, and it gives a little bit of, because it's written after he's passed. It does feel a little name droppy because it's like, they're bragging about who knows who and who's connected to who. Um, but if you get past that, they do a really good job of sharing his story. Um, but it is fascinating when you think about it. Geographically, if you go to Palo Alto, Google, Apple, and Intuit, their campuses all touch. And so
Oh, I
he
didn't know that.
basically he went. That's why it's called Trillion Dollar Coach. He basically went from boardroom to boardroom, and he helped build the cultures.
That's awesome.
And
Great
it was just,
culture. Great culture is everything. I think
yeah.
that um somebody, yeah, I have private equity guys approach me all the time, and the fuel industry in particular, it's what happened to the telecom industry as well. But the fuel industry is just experiencing a huge roll up, right? Where they're
Mhm.
just rolling all these companies up. And and I went down the path a little while, and I said, you know what? I don't want to do this because what would I do next?
Yep.
I get up and I get to go to work with my friends. My 22-year-old son, 23-year-old, and my 21-year-old daughter both work in the business. And
Nice.
I get to have lunch with my friends every day. And I'm like, man, I don't know that lightning. I always, I told you, you have to be lucky to be in business for sure. You have to experience some luck, but you're not going to be lucky if you're not working hard.
Yep.
And I got lucky with this one, and I'm sure I have no doubt that I could build another successful business, but I don't know that it could be as good as this business, And so, but I think the bigger thing is it's not about money for me. It's about I enjoy what I do every day,
Yep.
and I get to mentor my children. You know what I mean? To make them great entrepreneurs, and so I just, I've struggled with that one lately.
There are some things that are truly priceless, and I'm not going to say anything either way. But if you want to find out
Hmm.
what private equity money does to a business, look at
Oh,
EOS and look
yeah,
at BNI. Both of
yeah,
them changed fundamentally, and again, not good or bad, just different. But
yeah.
the minute you try to bottle the secret ingredient and you try to sell it, it loses its
It
essence.
does, and it's you can look at my previous businesses. The IT business got rolled up into they're now in the top 5 largest IT companies in the world. My little company's in there somewhere, and my customers, they lost probably 75% of my customers in the first
Yeah,
year. The telecom company has actually done pretty well, but they kept my 2 business partners. So I was in that place, I was the visionary that got it going.
yeah,
Those guys were in the day-to-day, and they kept those 2 guys, so they kept the DNA, and I think that's the reason they were successful, but Mo, I've seen it firsthand what private equity can do, a banking transaction can do to a well-run business.
yeah. Now, for what it's worth, I'll connect you with a friend of mine, Steve. He did. I can't remember what it's called, but basically, a it's kind of like an IPO, but you go kind of public, but it's with your employees as shareholders.
Yeah, yeah, I've heard
And
of that.
he said the greatest joy in his life was to walk into a team meeting. He's got a couple hundred people, and several of them became millionaires on the spot. And he
That's
said,
awesome.
I've built empires, and nothing has given me more joy than
Well,
watching my long term employees crying because they're suddenly wealthy. Like,
it's funny that you should mention that because that's the one thing that I was sitting with a friend and I was just kinda yeah, I was trying to figure out what am I doing it for? I was just doing some soul searching, and he said, and it kind just to kinda go deeper on the comment I made a while ago. He actually said, "Have you paid attention to how many people that you've not that it's about the money, but money is kind of the measure of success, right? If you're doing a great job, money just happens." And he said, have you recognized how many millionaires there are that are because they were in business with you?" And I cannot tell you how excited that made me, right? Like that's my dream for the 32-year-old little girl in there that's
yeah,
running our organization. She's already met new heights that she's never thought that she would accomplish. And I'm like, "Oh, wait till you see what's next." You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like, I get
I,
more pleasure from that than anything else.
I love that you're a proud papa of your team. I mean that shines through for me. Now, Elliot, I could talk to you all day. I want to be mindful of your
Yeah.
schedule. Um, Thank you for being on the show. Where can people go to learn more, connect with you, find out
Yeah,
what you do?
LinkedIn's great. Fuel Logic, you can get to me that way as well, but, LinkedIn is good as anything.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the show with me today.
Hey, I had a great conversation. I appreciate it.